And if we will step back to a larger scale, actually the geometry of the scar would be also important. And it's tied up as the zoning pattern. You look at the zoning pattern, you also need to think about the geometry. Because at different positions of the Skarns system, zoning pattern may be slightly different. Okay, so this is the summary of the Skarn geometry, and you have the early intrusion here. This is a plan view, so you may have an early intrusion here, then you have your causative intrusion come up here, and your wall rocks is limestone, and then you have interlayer some of the shale. So suppose we have this type of setup. We have the wall rock like this, and we have the intrusive sequences like that. And then well, the intrusions will have some dikes and seals come off it. And typically, the shallower the intrusion is, the more those dikes and seals. You go deeper, then less of these dikes and seals. So keep that in mind. Okay, so in that case of setup, then we have scars. We will have scars around, wrapping around the intrusion. So we also have scars getting out of the intrusion at different locations. So I gave the name. So I will call this contact scar, and I'll call this branch scar. I am not calling this proximal scar. This one's distal scar, because some of your distal scar will also occur here. And some of them go here, some of them go all the way there. And so this one also have proximal scar and distal scar, and this one also have proximal all the way there, also distal. So we can only make it a contact scar and branch. Okay. So that's the concept of that. And the control of this, so we have this also the pattern, the purple is endoscar, and the red is scar itself, and the blue is CRD, carbon replacement. And so that's the general pattern. The CRD typically is away from the intrusion as with different sightings. And you may also have a little bit of CRD in the contact scar, but typically narrow and small. And the major CRDs are away from the in the branch scars. Okay, and then we have actually different controls. What's controlling the position of the scar and the geometry? We have this number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. There's 6 controls of the scar. Number 1 is wrapping around the intrusion. And the position of the intrusion is a control of the number 1. At this time, the structure is not important. The main thing is when water comes out of the magma chamber, it's explosive. So everything around the intrusion is shattered with lots of faults, little cracks. So no matter what kind of, whether it's a lava fault or not a lava fault, the magma will generate its own fault system around it. So that's why you generate those wrapping around. Number 2 is controlled by this hypothesis and those dikes and seals. And that's number 2. Number 3 is along a fault. And this is a fault cutting across the bedding. And so that's a fault. Number 4 actually occurs at the boundary between limestone and shale, or it could be shale, could be chert, something else. So this one, it looks like this is stratobound. So the body is following the bedding. But the main control of the stratobound is still a fault. It's the parallel. This one is slip fault. It's controlling this one. Number 5, this one is just, you have a thick package of limestone, masha, selenium that's kilometers thick, but only certain layers are mineralized and changed. This occurs again and again. Mexico, go to through the mayo, I can't remember that word, sink the mayo, yeah. And again, thick package of limestone, only certain layers of CRP. So that's another control. Number 6 is probably could be the most confusing part. It's actually along an odor intrusion, at the boundary of odor intrusion. So the reason for that is, remember when we talk about the secondary permeability, when we have contact metamorphism, if the limestone is dirty, if the limestone is pure, this doesn't work. If the limestone is dirty or with clay or with chert nodules, you get the secondary permeability, then this intrusion may be barren. There's no water comes out of it, but you still have the heat and generate those secondary permeability. Then when this real oozy magma comes out and the water comes out of it, and then because the permeability, and so you actually form skarns along the boundary there. And that's especially to some of the geologists, they would say, oh, the skarn is next to this intrusion, so this intrusion must be the causing intrusion. No. Watch out for that. Okay? So sometimes it's next to that intrusion may not be the causing intrusion. Okay? Let's look at some of the examples. We'll start with the most confusing part, the odor intrusion. This one is Bayinor in zinc-less skarn in China, and you'll see this type of rock. This one is Triassic intrusion, and this one is, you see this pattern. This one is Jurassic intrusion. So if you look at the skarns, some of the skarns actually along this boundary, but there are also skarns along this odor intrusion. And obviously we also have sandstone and limestone. You also get big skarns at the bottom. So that's control number 4. And turns out after a lot of analysis, that's one of my previous PhD students, he used light isotopes to figure out whether the skarn is related to the older intrusion or this younger intrusion. The age difference is not 2 million years, 3 million years. This is 50 million years difference between the two intrusions. It turns out the light isotope shows it shows this is related to this intrusion. This is a causing intrusion. This is not. So this older intrusion, they have skarns along the and other skarns, I have been seeing some of others, they not get published, but still have this kind of case. It occurs along the older intrusion. Well, nowadays, it'll be easier than 10 years ago, because now I have a lab and I can date garnet directly. And so I could have dated the garnet and then directly show everything shape. Okay, so that's number 2. That's this one is small dikes, and it's not the major intrusion. So this is number 2 control. Number 4, number 6. This one is another example. This is the Gamma skarn. This is very big skarn. And then you see, this is the protection of the intrusion on the surface is totally buried. And the blue color is calcareous hornfeld shale. Now it has been changed to calcareous hornfeld. And the brick pattern, that's the carbonates. And so this is high elevation, this is low elevation. And we'll show the cross section. But the skarns are below the surface at the contact between the limestone and the shale, and the skarn is continuously all the way down to housing intrusion. Now, if we look at the boundary from here to just here, that's already 2 kilometers. Well, some of the skarn continue go further out. You have to think this is the valley, so some of the skarn has already been eroded away. So the skarn system is minimum 2.5 kilometers, and this has been fully drilled out. And that's the cross section. The calcium intrusion is here, and then that's the now calcium hornfelds, and then that's the limestone, and along the boundary, you see this part is wrapping around the intrusion. So that's control number one. And this one occurs at the boundary between the shale and the limestone. That's another example. This one goes, say, 2.5 kilometers. If they were not really eroded, it could have been more. And now, if you see the zoning pattern, the garnet color is darker here, and then gets lighter here, and now towards here become Wollaston. So the zoning pattern actually is a bit against your instinct. You will think the hydrothermal fluid should always go up, but the zoning pattern is actually the fluid is going down. Well, that's because there's nowhere to go. The fluid has nowhere to go. The fluid flow from here, they can't flow up because they're blocked. So in this case, they were forced to flow down, and that make your zoning pattern actually go down. So that's the control number 4 and the zoning pattern. Sometimes it should go up, but this time it's forced again because the blocking of the water got flow down. And you look at this steel bar, steel that's 200 meters, and so you go out, that's more than and the thickness of this, it's still like 150 meters and something. It can be quite thick. Okay, and if you are looking at using our garnet color change as a vector, what you need to be worried about? So if you have garnet color here, you have garnet color here, and another garnet color here, will this still be consistent? It will not be consistent because you are actually at different locations of the fluid path. If you want to do the comparison, you should always collect the samples at the boundary. And then it will show the fluid path. Okay, so this is another example. Bedding control, limestone, that's the example is the grill in Utah. And there are many examples. I'm showing a photo. This is marble, scar, and mineralized, obviously, those iron oxide, copper oxide. So everything in there is only certain layers that are mineralized. Even at certain locations, you can see marble, green garnet, marble, green garnet, marble, green garnet. So same location, only certain layers are changed and certain layers are not. So this is your control number 5. The inside the fault control, that's for the very often, very common immediate ones. And this is Baya in Turkey. And on top, that's volcanic rocks, and then below there's limestone. So they scar along this fault plane, and below that there's diesel scars, and then on top of that, intermediate sulfidation epithermal veins. The only thing in the vein is too narrow, doesn't make it deposit by itself. Fault control again, that's what we talk about in down pocket pack, and so. This is parallel faults, the Maza fault and the Camela fault. And the scar occurs where fault and favorable layer, that's the two controls. So they go all the way for a long distance. That's why we still get quite a bit of silver. Okay, now, if we are looking at zoning patterns, you say, oh, my Parkson-rich zone or Wollaston zone here, this is 3 kilometers away from the scar intrusion. So this is distal, 3 kilometers. And here, you have the same Wollaston zone, but this one is only 30 meters from the intrusion. So do we still call it a distal scar? Well, compare with this, that's distal. Yeah. But compare with this, And it's not like this anymore. So how do we deal with this situation? Because that takes too much things to describe this. Oh, I'm diesel zone, but I'm not diesel. What do you mean? Only 30 meters. So to do this, actually, the pattern we just talked about is mostly talking about the context skarn. A little bit about the distal, the branch skarn, but mostly about the context. So how do we deal with that? Well, now I'm making that different zones. So I'm calling the endoskarn as zone 1. And then anything wrapping around the skarn in the contact skarn, zone 2. Now we have a branch coming out, and along this branch or follow up with faults. And then we have other zones, zone 3, and then zone 4, then zone 5, then zone 6. Well, the definition of the zones, give you that here. Don't tell anyone else. And it is secret still. So zone 1 is endoskarn. And the garnet color, it got to be red color. If they're Persian, they're green color. And if they're iron oxide, yes, we can have iron oxide here. And the metal is mostly mud. And silver host, we don't have silver here. So it's so close. Zone 2 will become this contact exoskarn. And zone 2, we can have the garnet more than Persian, then to Persian more than garnet, and then to wollastonite. So zone 2 has its own zoning. It's not just one zone. There are subzones. And the garnet color change from red to brown to yellow-green. So you go from here to here, that's the garnet color. And Persian color is typically go to light green to dark green. That's about it. And then iron oxide, yes, hematite and magnetite, and the metals, and we can have moly right here, then go out to copper, then go to zinc, lead, platinum, and silver. So that's the metal. Silver mineralogy, this one is still not important yet. Okay, when you go to zone 3, and that's when we come to the branch, dikes and seals. And here, the Persian is brown color. So we start more manganese. And yeah, we run out of garnet, only have brown Persian, and brown Persian is brown. And the metals here will be zinc, lead, with some silver. Not the peak position yet. So, and then the silver typically is in galena, tennantite, tetrahedrite. Then we go to even out, further out, and this will be zone 4, will be the most distal part of the skarn. And we have rhodolite and platinum as well. No Persian anymore. No Persian, no garnet, and the mineralization is lead. Zinc is less important now, is lead and silver. And galena, tennantite, tetrahedrite. Zone 5 will become the CRD. So the CRD, I break the CRD into 2 zones. So those are CRD. And CRD1 is you always have calcite. And so if you have satellite together with the calcite, then that's your zone 5. And the silver becomes much more important than lead and silver and zinc. And some have some manganese. And here, the silver is have a aragonite and prostite. Those are the red silver minerals. And you also have aconite, that is the independent silver minerals. Here, the silver is inside underneath. Zone 6, and most diesel part is still have calcite, but your carbonate is changed to rhodophosphates. In between, you can have mononon calcite, which looks rosy, not pink, purple yet, but it's kind of rosy. You put acid on, still bubbles crazy. That's mononon calcite. When you have rhodophosphates, you put acid on, it actually doesn't bubble. You have to make powders and put acid on. And here, the dominant metal will be manganese or zinc. So, yeah.
What's the vein in zone 5?
So, the
The texture of the canopic.
this could be right next to the diesel scar. This part tends to be more massive, quartz carbonate sulfide. And you go further out, it starts to change. Here is massive amount of CRG, and here it becomes veins, and you get this veins here and out, and those go to the. That's we will start to run out of those CRGs or changing or. So that's your zone. So that's the different zones of the Skarns system tied up with the geometry. So wrapping around, we only have zone 1 and zone 2. Well, this is better in terms of talking about that. Then actually, if you look at the mineralogy, if you are looking at here, you actually the zoning is going here to there. And but in 3D actually is more distal. And go here again, you have this side of direction of zoning, then you have also this side of zoning. So thinking about that, then I have to make sectors on top of the zones. Getting more complicated. So sector 1 is a contact sector skarn. We can have zone 1 and zone 2. And obviously this is a zoning pattern by itself. In sector 1, we have zone 1 to zone 2. Sector 2 is the branch 1. The branch 1 is we can have zone 1, zone 2, all the way to zone 5. And sector 3 is the center is actually, we don't have zone 1, zone 2. We only start with zone 3, then go to 4 and 5. And sector 4 will be going to start with zone 4, then go to zone 6. And sector 5, zone 5 to 6, and sector 6 is on 6. Okay. I'm still developing this. So if you have more ideas or you see scars different from this pattern, well, thank you. Okay, so that's combining both the geometry and the zoning pattern. As a summary, one of the things is not one zoning pattern can explain everything. I have to consider a different scenario. And another thing is in old days when you see zinc-like scar, there's no intrusions around, and people always doubt. Some people say, "Oh, this related to an intrusion center or not?" Well, by now there are more examples, many more examples. The system have been fully drilled out, like the 2.5 kilometer their drill hole control. It's not speculation; it's real examples. And so now we have many more examples of continual transition from distal to proximal scar. So give you the confidence, if you see proximal distal scar, then you should go chase up the proximal. And as an example, the longest scar I have seen so far or read the literature is 4.5 kilometers, and in China it's a zinc-like scar. Again, this is fully drilled out. It's really done. Okay, and then finding all the parts of a scar system make it the resources much bigger. So many of those big scar systems, they have all the parts happening. Just need more work to do, find more resources. Okay, and there are more complications of the system, and there are contributing factors that will affect what you will see. But we're running out of time. We'll just skip through this. So the redox state gradient between the magma and the wall rock, that's very important in terms of your grounding parity ratio, and your positive magma, the volatile, the during fractionation, the redox state we're already showing that with the metal zoning pattern and other things. And wall rock itself, the accumulation, whether it's pure limestone or dirty limestone, is actually controlling the whether you will get permeability or not. Texture, whether it's classic limestone versus fossiliferous limestone versus just pure limestone, again, will affect your permeability. Yeah. And redox state, whether it's white limestone versus black limestone, and that's oxide versus relief, and control the mineralogy. Permeability, primary permeability, secondary permeability. And the textile formation will actually have a control on that. Typically, shallower part, more brittle, you have wider skarn zone, and the deeper part, if it is a deep skarn, the rock is more ductile, the fluid is difficult to flow out. You actually form a much narrower. This is from the magma that's we already talked about the magma. So the details, we just skip those details. I want to jump up to that's all to be able. I want to jump to intrusive sequences and which one is, how do we decide on the intrusive sequence and how do we figure out which one is causing spread? So intrusive sequence, we can use dikes cutting cross relationship, use truncated vein as the contact, and chilled margins and intrusions of early rocks in the later rocks. So that's the criteria you can use to see the intrusive sequence. Some examples have early intrusion, and a later one is a dike coming through as a dike cutting into it. Then you have fragments of the early intrusion inside the dike. So, and this one is the inclusion of early intrusion inside later intrusion. Another one, you have this later intrusion coming into this. And the thing is, sometimes you think the early one is the coarser grain and the later one is the perforated finer grain. You think about the temperature, it's high temperature coarser grain. It turns out some of the example that this example that actually the early one is the perforated one and the later one is more coarser. So I'll talk about this kind of situation. Antamina, there's many of the Antamina is big, probably there are multiple intrusions, and normally in the district you have maybe 5, 6 intrusions, only 1 or 2 is fertile. Antamina is there's 3 centers next to each other, and each center has 3, 4 intrusions. Every one of them is juicy with quartz veins. That's probably why they're big, because there's several intrusions and adding up the skarn and also the resources. So this one you can see, actually see this one is here is in the boundary. There's some of the it's too close. Some of the veins are truncated at the boundary, so that's P1 in the skarn, and actually this one doesn't have boundary. So that's you don't see any boundary. That's P1 inner skarn, that's P1 extra skarn. The inner skarn have the residual texture of the unit spot. That's one relationship. And this one is P1, porphyry 1, is the porphyry cell vein truncated at the boundary. So that's P1, that's P2. And again, that's P1, that's the fourth vein of P1 that's truncated by the boundary. So that's the P1 vein. And then you also have the veins cut across the boundary. So that's P2 vein. So P1, both P1 and P2, they have work vein. The example of a P1 skarn that got into P2 skarn. We haven't, well, I haven't seen it here yet, but if you guys see it, take photo. Yeah. And share it. And this one, you see, this one is a pure quartz, a piece of quartz inside the P2. This one I believe this is actually a quartz vein. We're just only seeing the quartz vein itself. Far southeast, again, you have those kind of situations. The quartz vein cut by later insurance. You even have white quartz cut into later insurance. Those kind of things in the sequence. Here, that's the stomach and skarn, earlier skarn, the veins in the earlier skarn truncated by the MZQ. So this one is later. Happened to be one of these corners. See this tiny crack? There are also sulfides here. So even this is still not the end of the system yet. So everything in here also has generate mineralization. So that's again for the weather reason. It's big. Antamina is 3 centers next to each other. So it appears as one equilibrium, and then it's big. And here the centers are separating out. Parabon chocolate on the different centers.
And we also did nutrition. Here's the thought.
Okay, and identifying what's the role of dating in terms of figure out the nucleotide sequence. You have to be very aware of the context of the dating uncertainties. In addition to look at the number, you also need to look at this number, past number. Also need to look at that. And if we had so current dating and later dating and dating, typical uncertainty is 1%. If somebody reported to you like 100 years plus minus 0.5 million years, still you need to think about that. It's not reliable. The reason we say 1% is the same zircon sent to different labs. Every lab has their own protocol, a little different in terms of doing things. It turns out the same sample in different labs, there is difference, and the uncertainty is about 1 to 2%. So anything below 1%, don't trust it. In my lab, I can get some of the dating. I get the results of plus minus 0.5, but I will say recommended uncertainty is 1. You give you a large uncertainty. Okay, so if we say plus minus 1, that means there's a 95% chance the age is between this range. It's not one number, it should be range. Well, when you consider that and then think about how long it takes to form a skarn, it turns out you only need 50,000 years to make a skarn. Each of the center in Papua New Guinea, octanic big skarn system, only take 50,000 years. And that whole district with several centers only takes 200,000 years. Well, if you have an uncertainty of 2 million years, that means you actually can form a skarn, then get eroded, uplifted and eroded. So if those age are like within the dating uncertainty, it only saying it's within, both of them are forming in this range. You cannot tell which one is earlier, which one is later. And you cannot say if the one age is like this, another one is 101 plus minus 1. Well, they overlap. You cannot say which one is earlier, which one is later. So there are many published papers, even published papers, they use this to say, well, this is a custody insurance because the age is overlap. They overlap. Well, it still don't tell. So consider this. This one, the dating method is very good to reject. If this one is 100 plus minus 1, the other one is 110 plus minus 1, they're obviously different. So you can conclude they are not related. But if you have a 100 plus 1 and a 101 plus 1, you cannot say they are related. They can be related, they still can be not related because the range is too big for relative to the formation time. Okay, so watch out for this dating. Do not misuse the dating and don't think the dating will solve everything. Geological observation is still number one. Okay, so dating is effective in rejecting a relationship. It mostly do not work in establishing. And what's the most reliable way of identifying? Number one is zoning pattern. And if you use our zoning pattern, there are multiple zoning patterns, and use them and logging and mapping, even do a little bit of microprobe, and then that's the most reliable. Okay, number two is not as reliable as number one. Is number two is typically the company insurance have red garnet things looking for the red. And at the contact with properties, if there's contact with toxic clouds, they may not have news. No supply of the light colored ones, green garnet Skarn is not indicative. Okay. And the toxic insurance may or may not have early stage high-temperature veins. And EDM veins, A veins, that'll be, if you have both Skarn and those veins, and then your confidence level is some other methods, if you really run out of other methods, that goes could be good. Again, this is not very reliable. It's works okay, but think about have to be relevant. That's an example of how things can go wrong. This is earthwork. There's earthwork scar inside the insurance. This is Lupanden, and there's a DBT on the eastern side of the scar insurance. Those ones are fully related to the earthwork insurance. Well, there's another insurance, and there's another scar, which is the big Austin scar. So the big Austin scar is a elongated scar, and the earthwork incident, it touches the end of the earthwork incident. So some people say, oh, this is next to the incident. It must be coming from, especially you already know this incident has caused two scars. But if you do your zoning pattern, do the mapping, it turns out. So this is more garnet than Persian, more Persian than garnet, that's more garnet than Persian. Just use the two zones. The zoning pattern actually, as a shadow part, follow a structure. And you go further deeper, it turns out a scar, an incident showed up. This is the cognitive incident. It's right next to the earthwork incident. But this one fully is related to this incident and not related to it. So that's why we use zoning patterns, and sometimes that's how zoning patterns can help to figure out the toxic incident. Okay, LiDAR scopes, there's literatures about how LiDAR scopes are used. And again, if you can use field evidence, and that's the most reliable. Sometimes we have, we talk about the Skarns. Sometimes we have this, this is in Serbia, and this one, you see the Skarn is actually green garnet. And could this one be colored in insurance? There's no way for this to be colored in insurance because this is volcanic rock. This is the volcanic rock stratigraphy below, that's limestones and the volcanic rock on top of it. So this scar from here goes into veins into those volcanic rocks. You can still have those veins, but it's not cutting through. And you'll notice the picture, we say the green garnet is distal, and you see this is green garnet, the distal part. Even it gets into the igneous rock, it's still not the coloring fluid. We need to look for the red garnet to be particle. And another example is still Rogazna in Serbia, and that's a fully insurance attack, and still it goes into the insurance, but still see those are green garnet, not coloring. Just watch out, you want to look for the red garnet veins indication. Okay, and that's the example of Parabamba, and you see some of the veins is very tiny vein, but with a white halo. White halo, you have to scratch it. It could be surfacing, it could be actually kick off over. And you scratch it, it's very hard. So this actually is kick off bar or over high temperature. And this high temperature vein is telling you this magma release water by itself. If they only have those B veins and with port and sulfide, they are low turbidity. The whole track of those port sulfide veins could be a early intrusion, could be it's inconclusive. Just studying those veins is inconclusive. You have to look for the high temperature vein, and if possible, you see right elevation or that's elevation. If you see that, then that tells you that it's really this water.
So what's the relationship between high temperature photonic veins and this stage 2 scan?
That's if in the scan system you will have the cosmic intrusion they form at the same time. Yeah, it's you see we will have a pattern like this. We have a scar intrusion here. That's the example of antamina, and so that's axial scar here. So axial here, and next to this, there's massive scar here. Then you go into here. That's scar veins, and you go further inside scar veins and port veins. So they are some for artery vein cut port, some port cut artery. So they are at the same time. Then you go further inside, you only have port vein, no more artery. That's related to the calcium. So if calcium outside is supply calcium is abundant, so you form a lot more in the scar. Then you go outside, you are running out of the calcium. Narrow protein veins, but some of the port, remember the port is silica in the solution. If there's nothing else, you just separate out as port. If you have calcium, then they separate out the blockchain. If you also have iron in the solution, then it gives you underline. Yeah. And so, well, when you go further inward into the intrusion, there's calcium, you just run out of calcium, and that's just beautiful software brains as with secondary bilateration field. So typical passing. I mean, that's the transition between. This is antamina is big, so it has all the transition. Many of the scars actually they don't have this. They don't have these veins. They only have the endoscar veins. That's it. Because they are relatively small and they don't have enough material to go inside. They will still have maybe not enough water to still have what's missing. I think that's it. Finished. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Zhaoshan. That was amazing. Sharing your experience of deposits all around the world, from Peru to China and Australia and Europe and Laos even. Yeah, no, thank you very much. So, go ahead. Vamos, pioneros, o necesitamos pioneros a los pioneros. Sección de espera es la pregunta. Do we need to take it media? Great one. Media. 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 Good. Yeah.